believed there will be a new generation of farmers that will actually solve the problem of hunger in Nigeria.
Mr. Debo is our consultant from BIC Farms. Yeah, so I think it's important, and it's an advice I'm going to give to, like young farmers or entrepreneurs that have interest in farms. It's important to, to employ experience. Farming it requires a lot of expertise, especially farming of this kind. So Mr. Debo brought in the years of experience and research, to this whole project. So prior to when I met Mr. Debo, I've done other, I've dabbled in some other kinds of agri productions, and some, not necessarily all of them went bad, but it was a struggle, because there was just something lacking, just like every other thing you set out to do sometimes, without proper planning, without proper knowledge and expertise, there are risks, So what this has done for us is minimize, the risk and the disadvantages that comes with, starting something new, especially something as sophisticated as the nature of soilless farming. So it's been very helpful in helping us plan, ahead. So, and access to certain things that, once you're coming in as a new or a new venture, you require to have access to certain things, or you don't have access to it. And so Mr. Debo has served as a bridge, in terms of helping us assess, where some of these things, like the nutrients, some of these things are really, really scarce in the market, and getting the right ones as well. There are a lot of bad seeds in the market, so you don't know these things until you start. So you know what's the right things to buy and why you should buy them, or why you should grow what kind of seeds, so you can to maximize production. So yeah, I think these are like really, really important aspects of like farming, like generally, even for as a business anyway. So yeah, so I think it's been very important, and yeah, knowing him has really made things a lot easier for us.
Mr. Debo has been the major player in the whole setup of this place. He's quite a creative guy. Most times he will be like, well, if we have a problem, don't complain. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way around it. That's one thing I always remember when he says that. So sometimes when I have challenges here in the farm, I don't even worry again. I like it. I want to take it on. I want to take it on. I want to face it. It's been nice. I always encourage people, whenever you want to do something, always look for somebody that has experience, or that has idea or a similar goal like you do. That will help a lot. It will save you money, because mistakes in the farm is money. It's not I'm sorry, let's do it again. It's money. So yeah, I would say his experience have helped us a lot. So putting all this place together and getting the right hands to run the place, it's been quite good.
We have worked with him over time, and we have seen him failed. We have seen him succeeded. We have seen how much resilient he has been at pursuing his passion. And today, we can actually say that his interaction with the Technology Incubation Center, Abeokuta, over the years has actually helped in building an individual. And he has become today an individual of international repute, because in recent times we have seen him being recognized, and the most recent recognition being his appointment as an Ashoka Fellow. Being an Ashoka Fellow means that he has become a symbol of entrepreneurship. It has become a symbol of innovation, and he has become an icon and a trailblazer for the development of youth worldwide.
Sometimes in 2015, when I didn't know that the Soilless farming thing is going to become big, especially after I told you I went to the University of Agriculture and I was told I was wasting my time. I got a mail from an organization and they said, we are interested in what you are doing. So person from Ashoka. So I asked my team, what is Ashoka? All of us went online to check. I said, Ashoka is an American organization. Is this 419? Is this real? Is this? And then the manager in Nigeria said, we want to come and visit you. I can still remember the ramshackle greenhouse, Mayhew greenhouse that we built in Ashoka, you know. And I said, we only have a small. I said, I want to come there. I want to know you are real. I want to see what you're doing. And she drove with her husband down to Abeokuta. And she came to that ramshackle greenhouse. Yeah, one small of, you know. We sat there and said, okay, this is the beginning of change making. You know, that we are interested in your work. We keep on. So that right there, I started the process with Ashoka. Now, Ashoka is the world's largest social enterprise organization, and when you are elected a fellow, you are a fellow for life. But they take their time. I had the biggest electing process. I went through the toughest process of my life. So going through Ashoka process of becoming a fellow actually refined the work. Because I now began to see myself differently. Okay, I'm starting a project. I'm doing a work that is going to affect a lot of people. You know, the picture of what Ogilvy and Wilbur Wright did with flying came to mind. These two guys flew the first plane. When they were flying, they didn't know there would be a vocation called piloting. Now, when you think about piloting alone, look at all the aspects of piloting. You have fighter jet pilot, commercial jet pilot, private pilot, instructor. In piloting alone, you have more than 30 fields of piloting. You understand? Air hostesses. People now started to specialize in building airports, aviation, restaurants. You know, more than 200-300 vocations, which are value chain of vocation, came up because some guys flew. So my eyes got opened. Because as I say, you are pioneering a major change in the industry of food and solving hunger in Africa. Is going to affect a lot of people. So we want to support you. We don't want you to give up on this dream. We believe if you can succeed, a lot of people will succeed. A lot of people will pick up what you are doing. It will attract a lot of young people. It will redefine agriculture, and it will eventually solve hunger. So we are going to do all we can. When I started going through the process, it was tough, but 2 years after, April 2017, I was elected a fellow of Ashoka. So I can say I'm very grateful to God and then to Ashoka, Ashoka Africa, Ashoka Worldwide for electing me a fellow, because Ashoka started to support my work. You know, I get to travel to several countries, all expenses paid for training, not only in leadership in specific areas. I get to network with other change makers, learn from them what they are doing, and you know, how I can probably, you know, add that to what I am doing, and then I get to see myself differently. So some people actually value me. Some people value what I'm doing. You mean I'm doing something amazing, you know? And I now understood that, wow, I'm a social entrepreneur. I didn't know what was social entrepreneur up until that time. You understand what I'm saying? Guys, I registered BIC Farms concept in October 2006. I didn't understand startup, you know, so many things until around that time. So I began to understand that structuring is key. You know, oh, we are building a work that must transcend us. We are doing a work that we are going to leave for people behind. We are creating a change that can be replicated. We are shifting people's mindset. We are seeing food production not just as any other thing we are doing either. You know, I when I started farming, all I wanted was a job that will pay my bills. You get what I'm trying to say? And you know, I've been adventurous and all that, but it has gone beyond just a job now. It's a passion. It's a livelihood. It's a calling. It's a mission. You know, we must conquer hunger. And now changing the food production system now became a major drive. You understand what I'm trying to say? So Ashoka actually created a big support base for the soilless farming industry in Nigeria because they supported me.
I think we need the big players because setting up a hydroponic system is not cheap. It's quite expensive. So it's not something anybody can do. You need either you get sponsorship or you have a deep pocket. It's just basically it. So I think that's like the challenging part of it. If we can get that out of the way, and I think most times when you have it's just like when you want to dig for gold, it's going to cost you a lot because the gold is worth a lot. So that's just how it is. It's going to take time because it's quite expensive before a lot of people could adopt it. And with this now, we can encourage people that, okay, you can do it. It's been done here. You don't have to have 50 houses or 20 houses or 10 houses. You can start with 2, you can start with 1, just to contribute your own quota. And your success rate is like at, let's say 80% to 90% if you're actually diligent at what you do. So I think in the long run, this should be like the talk of the town very soon amongst farmers.
You know, people really think just because of the stereotype of farmer are supposed to be for people don't realize that farming is expensive. You know, it's an expensive business. Like, it requires a lot of capital to start a farm. You know, even of this nature. You know, so it requires a lot of capital, and so you need the government to come in and to help out in some areas, directly or indirectly. You know. So there's take for instance, there's a lot of farms here, you know, not just ours. There's a lot of greenhouses and a lot of other poultry farms. So the biggest challenge sometimes is access, because most of these farms you can only afford to set up something like this in the rural areas. And the biggest challenges with the rural areas are that we don't have good roads, you know. So a lot of times you have to, like when we're setting up this place, I think we had to get tractors and a bunch of that to, you know, like clear up the roads, you know, make it motorable for we also even be able to bring out some of the machines and a lot of the equipment you're seeing here. So yeah, I think these are the areas you expect the government to indirectly affect you as, you know, as an entrepreneur. So I think, yeah, we have a lot to do, but I'm just saying, like, give us good roads. Let's not talk about power, at least the roads, you know, there's a lot to do, you know, but let's start with the basic, you know, where at this point we're just asking for the barest minimum. Give us roads, you know, so we can be able to go in, and not even talking about security, that's a broader topic, you know, like, but these are the challenges, you know, like running the farm of this sort in Nigeria. There's a lot of it, but like I said, the barest minimum. We need roads, we need, you know, access to capitals, you know, like in terms of extending, like, and evolving the farm, basically.
So another person that played a vital role in my success, and then I would say in the industry, it's my late mentor, Aziz. Alhaji Aziz Oladotun Bello. Alhaji Aziz Bello, up until his death, was the pro-chancellor of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Alhaji is an amazing personality. I can still remember when Alhaji called me and said, Debo, I saw an advert on the social media, you know, you are training people in soilless farming, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to send one of my staff. And I said, oh. So he sent one of his staff. The guy came for the training. After the training, we gave out some materials and all that. Alhaji watched the material, and he was fascinated. He was like, wow, this is amazing. A young man in Nigeria doing this. And I can still remember he sent that video to his friend in the US, his best friend. Professor Oladiran. And Alaji just called me. He said, Debo, do you know Professor Oladiran? I said, Professor Oladiran. And he reminded me, Professor Oladiran from University of Ilorin. Wow, those days my parents were at University of Ilorin. Professor Oladiran's wife was my mom's colleague in the nursing school. And Professor Oladiran told him, he's our son. you can imagine that. I said, what? Alaji said, Debo, you are going to use my farm, Azimo, in Ibadan, as your testing ground. I want you to experiment on the farm to any extent. Meet me in Ibadan. So I went to Ibadan. Alaji wrote me a check of 400,000 naira and said, use this for your logistics anytime you are coming around. I don't want you to tell yourself, no, I can't fund the trip or whatever. And whatever we need to do on the farm, I will fund it. So Azimo became our guinea pig. We built the first local wooden major greenhouse with Dutch buckets tomato systems. The first largest fodder farm. Alaji had about 10 or thereabout cows and several rams. And I built a fully automated fodder system. So we were feeding these animals on fodder and some other things. It was the first farm where we experienced a major breakthrough. You know, the tomatoes, we had the fruits, we were like, wow. So people began to come, foreigners. I can't remember his name now, from France, the foreign consultant to Odua Group. He came to the farm with, what's his name now? The group chairman of Odua in Ibadan at the Cocoa House. Alaji brought them. I could remember when the head of the transition government of President Muhammadu Buhari, Alaji Joda, came to Ibadan, came to the farm. So I began to see amazing Nigerians. I was like, what? You can imagine the kind of visibility that Alaji Bello gave to this project. Alaji's support was amazing. Amazing. Great. So I remember, now I told you about the issues and challenges we're having with building greenhouses and all that. So myself and my team now sat down and I said, the best thing we should do is, can we manufacture some set of greenhouses from China and then use it as a template? I checked what it will cost to bring in the type of greenhouses that we actually want, because I've seen some greenhouses in Nigeria, but these greenhouses were not made for the tropical environment like ours. They were too low on the side and some things, so they were not giving the good result. So with our design and then discussing with manufacturers in China, we discovered at least the kind of design that suits our environment, and now to order it, we needed money and to bring in a minimum of 20. I spoke with Alaji. Alaji said, son, don't worry, we will get this done. I will buy 3. Alaji spoke to a friend of his. That particular friend of Alaji said, okay, I will buy 6. Can you imagine that? He paid for 6. Alaji spoke to another friend. That friend said, I will buy 2. So from Alaji, 11 greenhouses were bought out of 20. Another partner of ours in Abuja said, okay, I will pay for another 2. To cut the long story short, almost 17 of these greenhouses were bought right here before we even made the order. So we used the money to place the order. And that was how we brought in the first shipment of greenhouses. I don't want to talk about the story, the headache that we went through, clearing it, especially when we now read that there is 0 duty on greenhouses in 2017, and but a lot of stress. I don't want to talk about all the stress, but that was how we brought in the first set of greenhouses. And then one of the team member, engineer Kayode Ogundele, said, okay, let's set it up. So we started and we set up the first set of the full hydroponics greenhouse, the tunnels in Ibadan, Azimo Farms. From there, we develop our template for fabricating, and you'll be amazed at what we've been able to do and achieve, You know, we discovered that, oh, well, maybe engineer Kyle will explain that better. You don't even need to sew anything. You know, things like profile, wiggle. I don't want to talk much about all that. So we discovered amazing technology that, you know, that's in place. You know, somebody said you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Somebody has invented the wheel. Just build on it. So I discovered that we didn't need to actually reinvent some of the things we were trying to reinvent, and we are now building on this thing. The rest is history today. So Alhaji Aziz Bello played a major role in getting hydroponic to go commercial in Nigeria. Its support was awesome. Forever, I will say thank you, Alhaji. The Lord will continue to keep your family, you know, and your work still lives on through what we are doing, and a lot of people are grateful to you. So my story has been of one support or the other, you know, here and there, and but it's been an interesting journey. It was difficult, and so as we were scaling challenges, more doors were opening. I can remember I still didn't keep quiet. A lot of advocacy work saying this is the solution for young people to come into agriculture. And then young people began to buy into it, right, left, center. They began to come for our trainings, physical training, online training, you know, in a lot, massively. People began to come from Ghana, from Cameroon, from Sudan, from Niger. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, why? We didn't just do hydroponics, we localized it. Those days of fisheries, I can't remember if I told you, what gave me success in fish breeding was the fact that I was able to localize the biofilter. And I remember that helped. Now, I was able to localize certain components of the hydroponics technology, or that are required to make hydroponics a success. So localizing it also brought about a major turnaround. I showed people that we can have a local content to this. One of the big breakthrough and one of the major change that we brought into the sector is solving the problem of substrate. For soilless culture, cocoa peat was it. Badagry, Calabar, some other areas have a lot of coconut. But when we started doing feasibility, we discovered there is no zone in Nigeria that can actually sustain a mega cocoa peat factory. So there is no factory. In fact, the people manufacturing coconut oil in Nigeria were actually buying coconut from Togo and Ghana. It was a shocking discovery. So no manufacturing company producing cocoa peat. So we had to be importing cocoa peat at a huge cost. The people building, some big organizations are also building greenhouses in Nigeria, but they use soil. You know, a huge problem attached to soil usage, but they felt if they are teaching hydroponics, it will be too expensive. So they didn't talk about it at all. You get what I'm trying to say? But I told myself we are not going to go the soil way, because there is no point reinforcing failure. You get what I'm saying? So cocoa peat was expensive. I learned a principle when I was building the first localized biofilter, that don't think like a professional, always think like a beginner. For example, if I'm holding a PET bottle in my hand and I ask you, most of you, if I say, what is this? Most of you will say, it's a PET bottle. Somebody will say, bottle, whatever. That's a professional thought or answer. A beginner will not say that. A beginner will ask, what can I do with it? Now, join me to ask this question. I'm holding a bottle in my hand. But instead of you saying, Debo, you're holding a bottle, why not say, what can I do with what you are holding? Now, if it is a bottle, imagine if I cut it, the edge can become a funnel. So every time you ask, what can I do with it? Oh, I can pour something with it. It becomes a funnel. When you ask again, what can I do with it? Oh, when you cut the top, the base can be a pencil or biro holder. It can be a flower vase. You understand? It can become a cup. Every time you ask, what can I do with it? So I apply that thought process to hydroponics. Looking at pipe, PVC pressure pipe, and I asked, what can I do with it? It became an NFT channel. Do you understand? I was looking at materials and I was turning them to amazing things just by asking, what can I do with it? We have a system that we innovated in Nigeria called the RDT system, Responsive Drip Technique System. Found a drip irrigation system, subsurface, amazing, and I looked at how to use that drip irrigation system. A particular system that was popular, but all over the world they have a major issue with it. It needs 24 hours electricity. And electricity is not a luxury in Nigeria, you know that. Such a system can never be sustainable. So I kept thinking, how can we go around this system? Anything we need to do that we don't need constant electricity is the key. So I thought, okay, how can I use substrate in a channel and still be able to feed automatically? So when I found the RDI tape, the responsive drip irrigation tape, I knew I found a solution. I looked at the roof of the house. That rain gutter, designed as rain gutter, I turned it to RDT trough. And I built a system with it. When the inventor of RDT saw it, they screamed, "You mean you use our irrigation in this system?" And it became the standard world over, you know. So asking, what can we do with it? Asking as a beginner helped. So I was able to localize the technology of hydroponics. So hydroponics is not just something that you do using foreign materials. Using local material, we got crazy results. We made it cheaper. We made it sustainable. So in the area of substrate, I was asking, what can we use for substrate? Looking at the characteristics of a good substrate, you know, water holding capacity, cation exchange capacity, porosity and all that. I looked and I decided, okay, I read somewhere that you can use rice husk, but I've never seen that done anywhere. Sometimes ago, one of my company, we were processing rice. So I know the biggest or the largest rice mill zone in Abeokuta. It's called Lafenwa Market. Or Father Rice, you know, originated from here. And I see how rice husk is being piled up as waste, you know, creating a lot of menace in that environment. So I went there, I spoke to the people there. I said, I need this material. And they said, why not? Take it. So I began to take the rice husk, you know, I fermented it and then turned it to certain things. So I began to use it in a way. And gradually, the rice husk began to give us results. I said, what? Then I learned that I can turn part of the rice husk to biochar using pyrolysis. I can inoculate it. I can add microbial inoculant. I began to do a lot of things with the rice husk. Initially, we started with 30% rice husk, 70% cocoa peat. I perfected it. We moved to 50-50, 70-30, 90-10, and then 100%. We didn't need cocoa peat again. You know, that did a lot. One of it is, it brought another problem. Rice husk now became a commodity, no longer a waste. Now, when we now go to Lafenwa, we have to queue. Because as I was doing this thing, we were teaching people, we were talking about it, so everybody began to gather, you know, to access rice husk. So the millers now started to sell rice husk to us. They bag it. They now have transport vehicles that are specialized in moving rice husk. You understand? They now have people that bags the rice husk, ties and sews it. You understand? So it became another industry on its own. So while doing that, I learned about circularity. I said, wow, we have added circularity, you know, to soilless farming. So the waste has now become a raw material, and then we now created even a product from it.
So I came in contact with BIC Farm when they are having similar occurrences that they have greenhouses failure. So when I come in contact with them, we sat down together on how we can solve all these problems. And putting together my technical team, we found out that there are things and factors to consider before building greenhouse. What is greenhouse? Greenhouse, I can say, is a structure that comes in handy when it comes to growing plants in controlled environment. And because of this, it is very, very important to note that such structure must be very strong and very well arranged in terms of the materials and other things that will be used in construction. We have different types of greenhouses. We have the Gothic, we have the ridge and furrow, we have the gable, different types. It depends on the shapes that you really want to build. But above all, as I was saying earlier, with my technical team, we sat together for a little research on how we can curb the greenhouse failure occurrences. So we start by moving from one locations to the other, in trying to investigate on what could be the cause of the failure. Our reconnaissance survey shows that weather in different parts of this country, most especially Nigeria, they are different, and the climate nature of each places, those things are the things we studied before going into the design of our greenhouses. The weather, the topography, and the soil nature of different areas in the country, we are also taken into consideration before coming up, because a very good greenhouse must be able to withstand all this climate change or nature generally. So we decided to source for materials locally that are not too expensive and that will be very durable. Also, what we considered trellising in planting. Some plants are crawling plants that by the time you added their weight to the frames of the greenhouse, if the greenhouse frames are not well done, they can bring it down. So those are the things that we consider before coming up with our own design. And having coming up with the design, we try to partner with foreign countries, to help us do things like wind gauge, the direction, location, and all these things. So through BIC Farms, this design was sent to China, and they came up with a design. That design was sent back to Nigeria, but after some time, we decided to make sure that the design is what we are doing locally. I can tell you, as of now, we are putting up a structure that is 99, or let me say 95% locally produced, except for the films, which is the covering. The covering, which now I think there has not been a company that can, all those companies that make films, that can do the span that we need. And probably some few materials like the wiggle wire that we normally use to hold the films in place. But now I can tell you that because of the zealousness of BIC people, they really want something that every Nigerian can afford, the kind of structure that every Nigerian can afford. Nigerian farmers, most especially now that going to an open field to farm is some kind of difficult, but you can have a controlled farming in your backyard, or let me say in your farm. So now, with all that we have put together, I can tell you that we've done several designs, several installations in different locations in Nigeria. We've been to Abuja, we've been to, I can't start, as a matter of fact, I can't start counting. So the zeal of BIC in promoting hydroponics and greenhouse farming is something that I really support, because it's something that can really affect and bring up something out of Nigerian economy. And I want to use the opportunity to encourage Nigerian government to invest in greenhouse. By the time, when people can afford greenhouse and can put it at their backyard, the fear of going to open farm to farm, we have been afraid of all these different menaces that we experience now.